Hello, my name is Jacob Toddson, and welcome to Glastonbury. I've ended up here in this small little hippie town in the west of England, I suppose. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's been a very interesting experience so far. So what brought me here? Well, I was invited. I was dragged here, but it's been worth it. And the person in charge of this dragging is right behind me. This is Kubi. She invited me to come here to show me the pagan sites around.
Okay, so my name's QB May. I'm a white witch that lives here in Glastonbury. I do lots of works. I'm trying to really bring back a revival of the Celtic healing ways so that people have some of their ancestral knowledge to hold on to. I do things like wand making and I make druid staffs. And basically just love living a really harmonious and simple life here on the lands of Avalon. This furry friend here, this is Zorro. I've had him for 13 years, so he's a little bit of an old man now, but he's with me through everything. I feel like he's probably like an old magical shaman that's come back as a fox to teach us all something.
So the first lesson I want to teach you here when it comes to anything in England, or really the UK, is everyone assumes that they have something tying themselves to King Arthur. It's a very common thing that you'll see. And so here at this abbey, supposedly the bones of King Arthur and Guinevere were found. Now, whether or not this is true, no one actually knows. Just as with every single site that claims to have King Arthur attached to it. I've been up way in the north of Scotland and people claim like, oh, this is the castle of King Arthur, and yet there's places all over here. So it's really interesting. I haven't really dug much into Arthurian legend, but Glastonbury in this area of Avalon, I suppose, is like what? Avalon's like where King Arthur was from, right?
Yeah. Well, he came here to have his sword Excalibur sculpted and carved, and then he ended up being brought here for healing, and eventually, well, we don't know, but he's meant to rise again when Britain next needs him.
But is Avalon like a title that like is claimed, or is it something that is actually like, no, we are Avalon?
We are Avalon. We have claimed it.
So where were we last night?
We were up on the tour last night. So they have full moon parties every single night. They have every time there's a full moon, beautiful bonfires around. Everyone drumming, singing, chanting.
And there was the weird bloke in the chainmail with the joint.
Yes.
But he was really cool.
There's always one.
There's always one with the chainmail?
So Glastonbury it's sacred land. It's believed to be the lands of Avalon. So it's meant to be the place where the old Celtic gods went and disappeared, and you can feel it on the land living here. It's a very sacred place. It's a place of simplicity. It's a place where everyone's very close to nature, but it's also a complete mishmash of all different spiritualities and all different religions. You know, we've got a big, obviously a very big pagan group of people here, and then there's also, you know, the Hare Krishnas, the Christians, and the Buddhists, and a beautiful amalgamation of all of those peoples and their beliefs in one place. Most people, when you say, have you been to Glastonbury, they will say, oh, you mean the festival, which is quite sad, I think, because it takes away from the spiritual mecca that is Glastonbury as a town. It's plenty of people go, plenty of people enjoy it. I've never been. Most of the locals really don't like it. They really don't like it.
Hello. Do you want to be on YouTube? Yes. So I definitely want to talk about a little bit of my experience last night when I first got here. I got in very late. However, I was still able to go to the top of the tour here and witness a pagan event that happens there every full moon, which is something that Kubi mentioned. And it was really surreal. Obviously, this is like the main symbol of Glastonbury, which is the tour, the hill with the tower on the top. And the history here is interesting. It's steeped in mythology and folklore and legend that I can't really share with you right now because I don't know it off the top of my head. Maybe I'll ask Kubi in an interview later.
Glastonbury tour rises up, such a dramatic thing as you drive into Avalon, into Glastonbury. It's believed to be the entrance to the other world, which is the Celtic realm where all the Celtic gods live. It's where the Fae realm can be communicated. And from underneath it, you've got the White Spring, which is ancient. We know that there would have been ceremonies there. There's lots of old Celtic pottery found in the area. So we know it was sacred to the Druids, to the ancient Celts.
What I really enjoyed about the experience of going up there is how organic it was, because we just climbed this hill. It wasn't like a festival, right? It wasn't, the solstice or the equinox. It wasn't Beltane or any kind of Celtic holiday. It was just the full moon. And yet there's a couple dozen people up there lighting fires, playing drums, playing musical instruments, singing and dancing. And apparently people sit up there all night to watch the full moon rise. And some people go up there rain and shine. And so I think it was just so cool to see it not have to be so planned, more organic, because that's the way it should be in the end. And obviously that's not the reality for the majority of people living as pagans today, is they don't live in a city that is so pagan. And I think that is one of the big takeaways I've had so far about my experiences here in Glastonbury, is it's really exciting to see what happens in a town when a lot of the population is pagan or interested in paganism to some degree.
So my original background into spirituality really was, my entrance was Reiki. So I was doing Reiki healing for a long time. I've taught it for years. And when I moved to Glastonbury, my connection to exploring the old gods got so much stronger that I started to ask the question of, well, how did our Celtic ancestors heal? What have we forgotten here? And this kind of curiosity of extracting perhaps from other cultures and the kind of scramble of trying to find out what that looked like. One thing that I found was really interesting when I was researching about the Celtic ancestry and the kind of work and the practices they would have done is there's so much of stuff that's been woven in that we think it might be like ancestral Celtic stuff. There's a lot of New Age stuff that I had to really extract from it and go, oh, hang on, actually that's been put in perhaps in the 1950s, as part of the New Age movement. And a lot of the work I did was removing stuff from the stuff I was exploring and piecing together something that was really, of the old gods, of the old Celtic ways.
The second site we went to is definitely the one that is going to stick in my mind for a very long time. The White Springs, oh my gosh, just not what I expected. And I got very little footage for you because they said specifically they don't want you having footage because I think it's very sacred, and I get it. And also there's a tradition there where people bathe themselves in the holy healing waters and they do it naked. And so I think that's also why.
So a common thing that you see in the White Spring is there's a female shrine. It's sort of got a very womb-like structure around it. And people go and they give their offerings to the goddess Bridget there. There's a sculpture of her. And it's a beautiful opportunity to sort of balance the feminine aspects of yourself. And the masculine part of the shrine is Sunnunos, which is the horned god of the wild and the hunt. So people often go and give their offerings to him if they want to balance the more masculine aspects of themselves as well.
I want it to remain sacred, and I want to respect the rules as much as I can, but also I think you need to see this site. I mean, it is absolutely incredible. I never expected to find something like this in my life, and the fact that it's still used as a healing spring today, and it has water running on the floors and candles oozing wax all over the ceiling. I mean, you walk in and there's just this massive chamber of pools of spring water coming in fresh from the hill. There's altars to the gods and the goddesses, and people leaving offerings as it's just a part of life. And there was tons of people in there, bathing in the waters. I mean, it was really powerful, and I just kind of sat there for a moment and absorbed it. And it was probably one of the most spiritual places I've ever been to in my life, and I just really can't believe it exists. And so, yeah, the White Springs under the Tor, and the fact that, the Tor is this kind of sacred monolith now to the pagans. I mean, like the church on top of it, like the cathedral tower at one point was a church supposedly before, things happened that led it to just the tower existing. And so now it's become a pagan monument over time, and it sits on a giant pagany hill, and then below it is this pagany water shrine with pools of healing water where people bathe naked and honor the old gods and goddesses. And I think that's just a really beautiful thing.
Chalice Wells is believed to be the place where Joseph of Arimathea took the cup, the chalice, with the blood of Christ in it and thrust it under a hill. And from there, the Red Spring burst forth, and people drink and they bathe in those waters. They built a beautiful garden around it, and people go there to visit the wellhead, which is in that site. There's often beautiful ceremonies, meditations, rituals around there for the pagan equinoxes and the pagan celebrations. So that can be really magical as well.
A a little bit different, a very much different vibe. It was outside, but it surrounded in the old yew trees and oak trees. There's a crazy story in there. So the well itself is, you know, supposedly this Christian monument, and yet it was discovered that there was an original well there that the Celts used, and they had thrown a 2,000-year-old yew tree stump into the well itself before it was Christianized. And so, of course, I can't prove this, but it seems like that the Druids were trying to poison the holy well so that the Christians couldn't use it, because yew trees, their bark is poisonous. And then the tree was taken out of it, and then a more concrete stone structure was made to house the healing spring. And keep in mind, this is only, gosh, it's basically right next to the White Spring. So to have a healing well right next to a healing spring, right under a sacred healing mountain connected to the Druids, there's clearly something here. And the woman that worked the booth was even telling us that there is a connection to the Druids initiating people at the sacred well there. And clearly travelers that came to this place were both a mixture of pagan adjacent or pagan people and Christian people all coming to this place, honoring the waters. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. And we kind of sat in front of the well for a while and just reflected on it. And it was just a very powerful experience.
So the work I try and do here on the land, I really tried to simplify my life when I came here. Moving here, I decided to go full witch. So I left my normal job and I was like, I'm just going to be myself. And it's been a really good decision, because since then I've managed to leap further into my healing practice. So I do like energetic exchange, I do Reiki. I'll offer things like wand ceremonies for people that want to have a rite of passage, and they'll come to me and they'll make their wands with me. And then my Celtic healing workshop is all about exploring what herbs our ancestors would have used, how they would have actually healed with chanting and spells, and how they would have healed one another in practices quite similar to Reiki. So yeah, if anyone would like to come and visit and to take part perhaps in a wand ceremony or in my Celtic healing certificate, it lights me up to have people visit Glastonbury and to come and do the work on the land. And I love showing people the shrines and the sites and the ancient ways here. My website will be down here somewhere. Thanks to Jacob. And it's been lovely showing Jacob around as well.
I definitely want to thank Kubi for inviting me out here, because otherwise I wouldn't have been doing this. So I thank her so very much for being a part of this video. And if you definitely support her work, definitely check out her store pages or attend one of her workshops. She's been the most gracious of hosts here, has shown me so much, and we've had an amazing time in my short time here in Glastonbury. I think the final lesson of Glastonbury I want to leave you with in this video is the lesson of so many people coming together to honor the setting sun. People with drums, with music, with fires and singing and dancing, all coming together to celebrate the sun and the moon, the most basic powers of our existence. I guarantee you everyone on that hill had a slightly different way at looking at our natural world and spirituality, but yet we were all up there celebrating the same things. And all these people coming to these healing wells, bathing in those waters, are doing very similar things. They're cleansing themselves in very special places. Whether or not they believe in the same gods is not really important. What matters is people coming together to honor the sacred powers of nature. And that's exactly what people do here in Glastonbury, England, a place that will live on in my heart for a very long time, as it is one of the most important pilgrimage sites for pagans all around the world.